Hello and welcome to our Marine Serre Spring Summer 25 panel discussion. Marine was this year's Pitti Uomo special guest. I'm SHOWstudio's editor, Hetty Mahlich, and I'm joined by a brilliant panel today to break down the show with me. So before we get into it, I'd love you guys to all introduce yourselves.
I'm Pitti McDowell, sustainable fashion designer based here in London.
I'm Georgia Medley, fashion editor and stylist, also based here in London.
And I'm Misi, also known as Misi Africa, and I'm the founder of TFB Studios, a circular production house.
Thank you so much for joining me, guys. We were kind of chatting before we started rolling, and I think something we all liked about this show was the idea of connection. The show title translates to Always Connected, and I wanted to start by asking you guys how you feel about fashion shows in a kind of political, very heavy political climate, because Marine, over the past kind of 8 years of having her brand, has always very directly referenced and responded to the world around her, whether that's the protests, the terrorist attacks in Paris for her first collection, or this collection, which is about the idea of kind of connection. So what do you guys think about the idea of the fashion show in relation? Does it have to be political? What do you think? Big question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great platform because we need to spread awareness of the things that's happening in the world, whether it be sustainability, political wars. And I think that having a show of this level and being able to voice that through her creativity, it transcends. So where people might be less resistant to learning about these things, it's very subtle the way she does it, and it kind of intrigues you to want to know more. So what does it mean about Congo? What's happening in Congo? A lot of people don't know what's happening in Palestine. People do know, but do they care? And I think having it done in the way that she's done it so beautifully, yeah, it's a great platform, definitely.
Yeah, because when you often look back in history, look back at the times, you reference how we tell how things were back in the days. We look at the art and what people were producing and all of that. So this, in the future, will only, when people look back, they'll see that, there is a connection there. She's not so far detached. Even though she is a designer, it feels like two worlds apart. She's actually, clued up, clued on, and actually just wants to express, what is happening in the times today through her art. So this will definitely be referenced, just how many other things will, just to show the sign of the times and what we're currently going through, But it's a beautiful way. How she does it is incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the clever thing about it, right, is to make it look so beautiful. Yeah. And to have all those messages is, like you said, such a delicate way of bringing people on the journey with you. And it's also quite sad, she mentions she felt sad because of the world, and so she put that into the collection, and that's so beautiful too, because she's a real artist where she translates what she sees and feels into these amazing collections of clothes, that carry so many other messages. I always think, I work in sustainability, and I always think to be able to do that, but still make it look really beautiful is so special, because often we have a bit of a disconnect there.
Totally. I mean, Marie's tackling so many issues here. It's climate, politics. There's so many things going on. To kind of take that point further, I'd like to bring up the sustainability aspect. She said something quite interesting before the show that I thought I saw her saying, that she feels that everyone knows about sustainability now, and she feels like she needs to find a different way to speak about it without shouting about it, so obviously. But how do you feel about how designers should be incorporating sustainability into their practice and that messaging?
I mean, how she's done it is like an amazing case study. It has many different techniques. I don't think she talks about it, but I'm presuming where she's used new fabrics, she's tried to use the most responsible ones she can. She also has a part of her brand that she's always had, where she regenerates pieces into new, really beautiful things. And I think she's also a bit more conscious about how she sells and the units she sells in as well. So, I think that's how it works, right? How long-term sustainable change actually is effective is by integrating it at all points of the business and not using it as an excuse for bad design. And she's doing that right there, which is so nice.
I agree. I think overconsumption is an issue, but it's only an issue because we're overproducing, right? And the way she's been able to regenerate the fabrics, and even she had this, what did I say, a utility jacket made out of the old tennis bags, and she was a tennis player. And I think the way she's doing it through her storytelling is so beautiful, because not a lot of people may know that she used to be like a semi-pro tennis player, and her bringing that in and bringing that personal touch, but then using old materials like a duffel bag made of like old tennis bag into a jacket. And I think this creative way is the best way to do it without, you know, everyone's bored, sustainability, what does it really mean? Like, no one actually knows, but we need to stop producing.
It's an interesting conversation, because some people see sustainability as quite a middle class, upper class conversation, you know, to touch on it. But it's like, because, you know, some people who may not even be able to afford certain, you know, clothing and price points and all of that, they have no choice but to buy cheaper clothes, you know, all of that. So it's a hard one, but how she does it, you know, even in the first look, was vintage jewellery. So she used vintage jewellery. It looks, you know, like this brand new piece, couture piece, but she's actually used vintage items to kind of showcase. So it kind of, again, same way, brings like two worlds together, you know. It's like mixing the old, or things may, you know, that may not be as expensive or whatever. So, you know, it brings then this high, you know, high jewelry, like expensive world, and it just collides them, you know, which is literally what she does in so many ways through this collection. She just like brings everyone together.
And then there's like the humorous side of the fact that like challenges has been such a big thing over the past few months, and she has this reference.
Exactly,
It's quite, it's kind of hilarious.
Such a good movie.
I think that first look as well, and then just continuing to go through this collection, it's quite a kind of extension and elevation of the marine Serre aesthetic. Like, you can see her using this opportunity. Pitti Uomo, for those who don't know, is a men's trade show fair in Florence, but each season they invite a guest designer to come and show. And you can see that she's really used this opportunity to push herself forward and find something new. Like, this definitely feels a different vibe.
As soon as I saw it, it was like the location, everything, it was like as if it was like a Valentino show. You know, I just thought, this is like, you know, the location, it being a castle, and like the ground, it was just beautiful. And then having the live music there, it just elevated her straight away.
And I think it shows also how vital these kind of sponsorship situations are for designers, because you can see here, right, she's been able to focus more on the design, on the clothes, because Pitti is managing the production. She's saying exactly what she wants and getting it. And so all those other worries that come with doing a show, which are many, she has obviously not had this time. That's so nice, and a real case study for why we need more of this, right? Because it gives people the chance to be exposed to the amazing guests that come to Pitti, try a new market category, but also do a show like this in a villa like that, which is so incredibly expensive without the help of a big fair like Pitti.
And to your point, I feel like giving people these opportunities, like we saw her face at the end of the show, right? She was ecstatic, so cute. Well, you can tell as an individual, because we're always learning, she's probably learned so much from this experience, and her vocabulary's expanded, she's elevated. Like, the next show after this, there's so much anticipation. Like, what is she gonna give us next? Like, look, like what I said, she's so happy.
I mean, that's also something I wanted to ask you guys is, I think that this show perhaps has enabled her to kind of break out a bit from maybe being pigeonholed slightly. And obviously the crescent moon, all of those things are so kind of, you know, she's got cult status, there's kind of so much kind of copycat and bootleg culture around her, which is always kind of a sign of success. But before this show, how did you guys feel about the Marine Serre brand and the status of it? Did you still feel like it was cool and relevant? What did you guys think?
I mean, whoever wants to go. No, I was going to say, I feel like I could have been one of those people that kind of pigeonholed her in my head of, like, you know, streetwear brand, you know, or just associated her in a group set of with, you know, the Gautiers and all of that kind of world that is accessible to a particular group and demographic. But when I saw this show, yeah, it shocked me because it really felt demi-couture and just kind of positioned her in a more, kind of elevated world. But yeah, I've definitely, my ideas of where she can go has definitely changed and shifted because there was so much in there where you could just see it progress and grow and develop, and she just has refined things. The tailoring in there is beautiful. The gowns are gorgeous. So, but then she's still done it, but remained true to her aesthetic and who she is. That's what I love about it. And she's really used a lot of materials that, you know, reference first collection and just who she is, but she's just taken that up a notch. So yeah, she's surprised me.
Yeah. I'm guilty of knowing her for Crescent Moon. Like, I first interacted with her brand through that. I was like, it just blew up. I think it was like 3 years ago. It totally blew up, I think, because of all the resellers, all the fakes. And watching this collection, honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell who the designer was, right? But I think that's the beauty of design, like constantly changing, constantly innovating. And then when we actually look into the details and you're like, wait, actually, there are some similarities and there is a brand identity that kind of transcends throughout every look. And I think that as she kind of continues to develop from her 2016 debut, we're going to see more of her identity being built past Crescent Moon. So like you said, with the silhouettes, we're going to start seeing like marine Serre silhouettes. We're going to be like, okay, this can be easily identified, but hard to replicate. And yeah, it's really nice to see.
And she's done it so well, like that strapless kind of tea towel dress. It's just a bit further up.
I think it's like 39 maybe.
Yeah, the next one up. Yeah, that one on the left.
37.
It's like, I think it's probably tea towels or something, or bags, whatever, but she's made it look so nice.
Yeah, it's very
and that's...
They said it was tote bags as well, German tote bags.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what it is. But I just think there's so much to be said for that kind of using your design skill to elevate something that's so pedestrian and unwanted and to make it into something that I feel like all of us in this room might want to try that dress out.
Yeah, it's fun.
You know?
And like you said, I feel like she knows how to construct a garment.
Yeah, she understands. And you can, I guess that probably knowledge is enhanced by the fact that she knows how to reconstruct, right? So she's constantly taking things apart and putting them back together, and overall that probably helps her design skill, actually.
So I think people forget sometimes, like, she trained Balenciaga, she was an LVMH prize winner, she's got... You know, she's got it all kind of under her, you know. So should we have a look through the collection? I mean, I think it's interesting that you said, Georgina, that you felt like as a stylist that it expanded your kind of idea of it, because, you know, we're talking a lot about the crescent top, which is very kind of, you know, e-commerce, so you can see it kind of selling to anyone, but I think she's also maybe then branching out to look at kind of red carpet, more editorial.
Because there's so many gowns in there that I could now put on a client, whereas prior, she wouldn't necessarily have been my first go-to, maybe for like, you know, more casual events, but definitely now, after this collection, there's wearable, chic looks in there that, you know, would be so appropriate.
And I think some of the gowns were remade from previous couture pieces.
Okay, nice.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
Yeah, I'm sure I read that there was kind of like she was remaking. So she's also trying different things there, right? Whereas before it was remaking a certain type of thing.
I remember she used to have like a red line, gold line, blue line, white line. And she used to like really segment it all up into kind of your more kind of accessible Crescent Moon t-shirts, and then you'd have. There was even like a bit where she kind of called it more sustainable section, and then she had a couture bit. And it's interesting now that she's developed to this being one kind of language speaking about things, and maybe lent more into that couture end of things. That's beautiful.
Gorgeous dress.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're seeing like she could be the next guest designer a Gautier. Who knows?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like,
that did look like a bit
Could
of
be
a
like
shuffle,
that
yeah.
direction.
Because Simone kind of teased it before
Yeah.
Simone Rocha did it, so
Yeah.
maybe this is our...
Yeah, maybe this could
is
be
our
our
Gaultier
next
teaser.
one.
Yeah.
What are some other favourite pieces from this collection that we really enjoyed or...
Do you know what I really loved? I really loved the bridal type of connotations that she has.
Yeah.
And the reason I love that so much is because when she said that it's all about bond, and I was like, okay, I get it, I get the story. So she was saying how, you know, well, it's all about the political wars and everything that's happening right now, but she wants love. She wants love, not war. And bringing that white, clean, like, ethical, it's just so beautiful to see. And I think the styling of it as well, you can probably comment, is just like, yeah, like look at that piece.
Chic.
Very.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if it's like she's ended it with the white as a nod to say, you know, okay, can we start on a clean slate?
I have a quote
it's
from
like
her
a reset.
backstage. She said, I wanted to spread a message of peace.
Yeah,
Peace,
peace,
yeah.
exactly.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
And it's quite funny because, like you said, she ended with the white, but throughout the show she had the airbrushed red leather that was very dramatic, very like, you know, like a statement piece, and then she cleansed it all out.
Yeah, it's true. It's
The
like she
white.
took you on a journey, and
Took us on a colourful journey, yeah.
We actually had a question from someone. I've got a few questions from members of the public here, and they said, kind of off us saying this may give Gaultier guest designer vibes. Someone asked, do you think Maureen Serre would accept being creative director of a big house like Balenciaga?
It's very specific.
I know.
I know what they want to know.
Balenciaga only.
Yeah, I mean, I heard rumours that she had been offered several things, but she has this kind of dedication to being an independent company, right? Which is,
It's amazing she's still independent.
I mean, it's hard, you know, and she's done it. She's based in Paris. Like, there's so many big competitors in Paris, and she's managed to kind of really maintain that and a customer base and everything. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Do we feel like perhaps her taking a job like that could compromise her kind of very clear moral values that are so evident in her brand?
I mean,
because you lose control to a level.
you lose
right?
control, but you also have a greater impact, right? So you might not be able to do as much amazing stuff, but the impact that the stuff you do hits more people. So it's always a...
Yeah.
But she also might be approaching, sustainability also goes into kind of like how much work you do, right? And she might feel like she's actually content with this. And maybe she's just like, I'm good.
Yeah, it
I'm making what I wanted to make.
And that's okay.
I'm okay financially, I'm okay,
Yeah.
you know, I'm happy, maybe. So
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting, or another part of that sustainable conversation about like how you actually feel and whether, because we all know, right, those jobs
Pressures.
make people quite unhappy.
Yeah. The pressures of it. Yeah, she might not want to deal with the pressures of having to do double the amount of collections and because it's a lot. It is a lot for one person. But then, you know, it also, she might actually want to focus on just continuing to refine and elevate her own
Brand.
her own work. And like you said, Patrick, going back to your point of, you know, having the support that she's had to be the host designer at Pitti, she's been able to really just put all of her efforts and energy and feeling, emotion, everything into the collection, and it shows. So who knows, she might want to explore that with another house where she has a huge backing, huge name, and get to do things that she might not necessarily do. But yeah. Sorry, I don't know if that answers that person's
No, I think it
question,
does.
but
I think it also raises that idea of impact that you touch on, and also, you know, you also touched on the unhappiness that the creative director kind of game of musical chairs brings a lot of people.
Yeah.
And actually whether it's quite important to have new names like Maureen,
Yeah,
you know, who's
totally.
established herself,
And
actually
women.
becoming players in the game in Paris especially.
Yeah, I saw something, I can't remember what it was, I think it was on Instagram, and the headline said, why are creative directors such an easy target? Or what, you know, and it's like, it is, they are. I think people just go for them, don't they? So it's a hard position to like maintain.
Yeah. I think she's still quite early. I know she started, 2016. But as a designer, joining a house like that as creative director so early, there's still a lot of fine-tuning within herself to do. Taking it on will be beautiful because I think she can bring a lot of impact to the brand, but I think her brand is strong, and from this show, she has so much potential to be a competitor in the luxury game.
Totally.
Like, she's in Paris and she's already global, independent, global. Like, if I was her, I would definitely see how I can lock in and maybe collaborate on different level, but maybe taking on a title so big for such a big house. I don't know. I don't know.
How do we feel like this collection struck the balance between creativity and merchandising? I think we've kind of touched on it already, but I think it's something interesting to explore a bit further because she has moved away from the kind of crescent moon tops and into this couture kind of level. But how do we think this will sell?
I mean, I'm sure she'll still sell all of that, right? She's just not showing it. But it's also clever things like this one bodysuit that's, I think it's printed with kind of smushed T-shirts or something, and then kind of faded at the edges. And so she's, and if I can guess, she's probably making that out of recycled mesh. That one. So you just that's the kind of couture version, and then a few afterwards is a bodysuit, which is looks like a kind of printed version of something similar. And I just think, that one there, the middle one.
Yeah.
And so it's quite clever. That's extremely elevated somehow. She's managed to make printed mesh feel actually really beautiful because it has this kind of faded edge and the print themselves. But I think she has a very clever mind, to do this. But it's also kind of, she's probably sick to death of the crescent moon.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
Because that's the sad thing about being a creative and owning a brand is that brand building and your creative design voice kind of like two separate things, right? So like brand building requires more of the same repetition and a great designer wants to do new things all the time, but you can't do both because they don't work with each other really. So sometimes owning a brand means you have to do that dress again, even though you really would rather not see it anymore.
Again, it feels like what we were saying with her having the support of Pitti, having more of that kind of
support.
Yeah, but even that, so the way she's done that is so nice. She's really done it in her way. I think they ask people to come and show their first men's collection, or they show a men's collection, and she's really shown who she is.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. Actually, I think she did an interview with BOF before, and she said, I'm going to just do men's, or I'm going to split the men's and women's up really clearly. I want to really define this person. And then she went to Florence and was like, no, I'm going to go couture. It's nice to see people getting excited and creative.
Yeah.
And also speaks so much to Italian craftsmanship. And, I mean, I work in Italy a lot with Pinko, and such a country of craftspeople, and they're so happy to see people that really know how to make something. And so it makes sense that it's so beautiful. The location was incredible.
It's beautiful, like
it's really, such an amazing backdrop.
Yeah. I got a quote from her backstage, and she was saying that she loved the kind of Godfather feel to the villa almost. And then I picked up on some of the kind of shirts. They're kind of so oversized that they're almost kind of
with the ties and totally.
That's so true. Yeah.
This is like her first time showing outside of Paris, and she always likes to do a kind of big story with a show, but you can see the kind of fantasy, glamour opportunity here to just really go for it.
There's some Italian glamour in there, and in the tailoring. And
even in the styling, the way the men's hair was brushed back.
Yeah, exactly, the wet look.
Wet look.
Yeah.
That coat I thought was really beautiful, and again one of those pieces that I was like surprised by. Okay, that's really interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sure there's some story with those flowers. With like a regular fashion house, the flowers would be made by Lesage or something and sewn on, but I'm sure she I love to think with her that she kind of found them or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
They were from an old wedding thing and she dyed them.
Yeah, she probably did.
Definitely is a story behind
Definitely
the
a
flowers,
story.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I've got lots of notes that a lot of this was made from upcycled silk scarves.
Yeah.
Which is something she loves to kind of go back
It's
to.
amazing.
The white finale looks, we're using upcycled duvets, sofa cushions and T-shirts, more bed sheets, the tote bags we've spoken about. But it's so clever because it doesn't feel... I think it's interesting to talk about kind of where we've come from sustainability in that conversation, where sustainability is kind of often pigeonholed as having to have a certain aesthetic.
Yes.
And I think she definitely has been a proponent of evolving that, doing this kind of cool couture sportswear thing.
Like, so one of the things that I say, me and my business partner, we always say, like, sustainability can be sexy, and I think that there's such a negative connotation when people think sustainability or sustainable fashion. They always think about grannies and knitwear and all these, like, no, it can be this. You can take something old and reinvent it, make it new, make it whatever you want it to be. And it really doesn't have to be that thought through. Like what she's done with bed sheets, like you would never know. This just looks like a cotton dress. And the way she's actually even done the silhouette, you would never tell. And I think, yeah, sustainable fashion is sexy when done right, like she has.
Yeah, the movement in the other dress we had on the screen earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
That
This was
one,
gorgeous.
the puffball. And,
Yeah,
and it's funny that she's actually like playing on trends as well, but not. Because I know that look is very on trend now. A few other brands doing like the puffballs and everything, but she's made it her own as well. So when we talked about retail and merchandising, she's kind of smart with what she's done. Yeah, I really love that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There it is.
Patrick, from your perspective as a designer and having to source fabrics, how have things kind of changed or developed in terms of how easy and accessible it is to kind of source sustainable or found or secondhand fabrics en masse? Like, how's that production side of things changed?
Really significantly, actually, over the past 5 years. It's been really amazing to see the difference, you know, before, the difference both in people's ability to comprehend it as an option and also the actual physical offering, you know, almost. I mean, my own brand is a very specific type of clothing, right? It's like luxury, and we make things to order for people, and so that is a specific price point. So, but when you work in, you know, if I consult for the brands working in different parts of the industry, it's still kind of like premium or luxury. So at that level, there is kind of almost always something you can swap out now, and the price isn't that much different, really. Which is great because it didn't used to be like that, you know. So, and then on a different level, kind of companies that offer these kinds of bigger, you know, like she's been very clever about what she's used to remake, because those things are all available en masse. So kind of scarves, blankets, linens, you can get them in really huge amounts. And there's even amazing companies now which can even, I could make a jacket, for example, out of denim and show it to them, and they could send me 1,000 pieces of denim to make that jacket again, almost the same. Because I think people don't always fully understand how much waste there is in the world. So you can, yeah, it's really amazing how you can source now. And I think if you kind of have it in your mind, if you try to design, this is our last collection, but if you try and design the clothes and also design how they're made and just rethink that, anybody with a great design education can also reinvent it. So that's why I really like her so much.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it is a lot about the reconstruction and she does it so well, you know, so.
And it's nice because there's a mixture, like there's that opening piece which is jewellery, and she obviously worked with an artisan that can put that back together, and it's really special. But then there's those kind of, you know, that dress that's made from bags or whatever is really beautiful and probably quite easy to make many of. And
So she's highly executed.
She's shown the whole range of.
She really has shown the range of what she can do.
Yeah, I
Like
think,
everything, like everything.
I'm wondering if there's like a story here, because the last dress references like her first collection. So I'm like, okay, are we seeing a full circle moment here where she could then possibly go into like a new trajectory? So the next collection will be, I don't know, something that.
Yeah, like a moment of considering everything so far.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely feel like this is pushing forwards.
Yeah, I feel she's in like a transition where she's going to like do something different next.
Yeah.
One question we had was, what do you think Marine Serre's biggest challenge is? So maybe what is her biggest challenge moving forwards, do we think, after this collection?
That's a good one.
Good question.
That's a really good question. I would have said sourcing, touched on that, just because, you know, she is using a lot of dead stock, overstock, and having that kind of continuity for merchandising. But there is waste in abundance, and I'm sure she can find a way around it. It's really hard because I think she's on a good foot. I think challenges, depending on who her next collaborators are, is maybe just honing on her brand, moving past the crescent and seeing what the new Marine Serre look is. I don't know if she's going to continue making new pieces with the crescent or not. I think that is something she'll need to identify. What is her brand image? What does she want to be known for? Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not the crescent, I mean it is already, but then you know, if she wants to move past that, what is?
Because there was some crescent in this, but
Yeah,
really
but it's in the leather pieces though, which you know would be
more
more
about the language
luxury.
of design rather than
the actual print, everywhere. Yeah, it's in the leather pieces, which, you know, if that's to go into retail, that elevates the crescent anyway, because it's you know, so there'd be luxury pieces. Even the bags and stuff, I'm sure that, you know, they could easily sell very well. So she's been very clever there. She's elevated the crescent just from, you know, doing it with these fabrics.
She might even be, I mean, like I was thinking, one of our challenges is kind of the current kind of retail market and how that's, you know, 'cause especially online, it's a very kind of treacherous place in luxury at the moment. And, you know, the whole kind of business model of guessing what people want and making it and then hoping to sell it, which creates this kind of enormous waste issue. But also, if you think about the fact that most luxury brands, which might have been her competitor, have now kind of so heavily increased their prices, she might now find herself in kind of a bit of an empty gap where people actually are buying it more because they can't afford the bag that they were buying that's now £9,000 is, you know, so out of so many people's reach. This kind of thing is becoming the new kind of, you know, where Prada used to sit, where it was kind of like a bit lower than the luxury brands, but they've all kind of done this very high hike now.
That's true.
That's really interesting.
It's a good point.
Think about that e-commerce landscape right now and why perhaps we're also seeing her offer herself up more to the custom end of things and the celebrity end as well, which she hasn't necessarily done so much before. And then still having, I think that's interesting, thinking about that being a middle ground thing. Do we have any last thoughts before we close up?
Ooh, I love it. I love it. I'm talking about retail. I'm actually quite interested to know what the price points for these pieces are. But I think if I was going to use a single word to describe this collection, it's sublime. Like, honestly, she did not miss a single look. Like, a single look. Yeah, she's here to stay.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see what she's going to do next. I definitely feel like it's like a full circle moment for her. And then I'm intrigued to see what the next collection will be like.
And so amazing to see somebody really elevating sustainable circular design.
And speaking in that kind of, speaking to what's going on in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is also a sustainable story now.
No, exactly.
She touches on so much, and then, you know, there's a story throughout. The pieces are there's so much in the collection. There's variety, it's creative, but there's what she's literally told her story of wanting it to be about bonding and connection and all of that, and it's curated beautifully.
Yeah, I think it's a palette cleanse. That's how I feel. Like, I feel like
True,
she's come and just there's a lot going on. She's brought the awareness to us, and she's, like you said, touched on a lot of things. Palestine, Congo, even what happened in her, bringing back the Paris and Brussels terrorists with the T-shirt. And I think it's like, yeah, it's time to like wake up. She's just so refreshing.
Yeah, it felt like this show was a moment to kind of reconsolidate, breathe, but also not be kind of in a utopia away from everything that's going on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, guys, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.